What is the difference between me and LeBron James? Let's think about it. 6'8" figure, huge amount of talent. But what else? Presumably the mindset. He probably has key habits that separates him from the rest. Let's check what those difference makers might be. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. Nobody can convince you to change and have new habits. People only change if they have a burning desire about it. Astronauts need to fight against gravity before reaching outer space. But once they overcome the gravity, they become free. Likewise, it's very painful to establish and sustain a habit. We need to make ourselves to sacrifice short-term desires for the good of long-term ones. Unfortunately, not everybody is lucky to endure this process. Fortunately, we tend to hold on to hard-earned habits once we integrate them into our lives. Thomas Paine has a quote about this. That which we obtain too easily, we esteem too lightly. It is theirs only which gives everything its value. This book presents 7 habits that successful people possess. First 3 are about being your own boss, about being independent. Second 3 are about your interactions with others, about being codependent. And the last one covers your well-being. It is about consistently renewing yourself. Independence habits. 1. Be proactive. We are faced with numerous things in our lives. All the things we observe are within our concern circle. But not all of them are within our reach. Only a part of them are in our control, and it's called our influence circle. Most of the time we worry too much about the things that are outside of our influence circle. We should try to enlarge our influence circle rather than worrying about the rest. We have a faulty belief that our reactions come within us and we have no control of it. But in reality, we have the power to choose our reactions. Take Viktor Frankl. He was a psychiatrist. As a Jew, he was imprisoned in death camps of Nazi Germany. His parents, brother, and wife were killed there. Only remaining relative was his sister. He suffered unbelievable amount of torture. One day, he became aware that Nazis can only control the environment and his body. But he was the one to decide within himself how all of this was going to affect him. Through a series of mental training, he started to exercise his freedom in thought. He projected himself in different circumstances, like giving lectures to his students after his release. This way, he achieved his freedom without being freed physically. His story shows us that between stimulus and response, people always have the freedom to choose. We can always act proactively rather than having a response according to our surrounding conditions. Great thinkers have many great quotes about this concept. No one can hurt you without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt. They cannot take away our self-respect if we do not give it to them. Gandhi. 2. Begin with the end in mind. Have you ever thought about your funeral? What would you like to have accomplished until your ultimate end? How would you like people to remember you? We should think about these questions and find our own definition of happiness and success. Viktor Frankl developed a philosophy called logotherapy. Many mental illnesses seem to be symptoms of meaningless or emptiness. His treatment tries to help individuals to detect their unique meaning in life. When we find our mission in this life, we should write it down and try to live accordingly. We should try to balance different centers of our lives like family, money, possessions, pleasure, etc. We should structure those centers over our core principles. Our life centers can fluctuate through time, but principles stay unchanged since they are fundamental truths. Thinking the end concept can be applied to all minor and major parts of our lives. We can visualize the outcomes of our goals and actions before taking any kind of action. 3. Put first things first. The successful person has the habit of doing the things failures don't like to do. They don't like doing them either necessarily, but their disliking is subordinated to the strength of their purpose. Albert Gray. Let's look at the time management matrix. Quadrant 1 is the most time-consuming part of our lives. It is both urgent and important. It deals with significant results that require immediate attention. Those are mostly crises or problems. As long as we focus on Quadrant 1, it keeps getting bigger and bigger until it dominates us. Quadrant 2 consists of non-urgent but important tasks. Actually, this is the heart of effective personal management. Important matters that are not urgent require more initiative, more proactivity. We must act to seize opportunity to make things happen. If we effectively manage Quadrant 2, few crises will arise and Quadrant 1 will shrink. Effective people usually stay out of Quadrants 3 and 4 because, urgent or not, they are not important. It is necessary to find the courage to say no to trivial stuff. Interdependence habits. 4. Think win-win. If we treat people well, we make deposits in their emotional bank. If something goes wrong and you need a withdrawal, you can count on years of investments, and people will still be happy to help you. Win-win is a frame of mind and heart that constantly seeks mutual benefit in all human interactions. Win-win sees life as a cooperative, not a competitive arena. Character is the foundation of win-win, and everything else builds on that foundation. There are 3 character traits essential to the win-win paradigm. Integrity, this is about sticking with who you are and your values. Maturity, this is about expressing ideas and feelings with a balance of courage and consideration. Abundance mentality, this says that life is not a zero-sum game, there is plenty for all. 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. We typically seek first to be understood. We do not listen with the intent to understand, mostly we listen with the intent to reply. We are either speaking or preparing to speak. On the other hand, when we truly listen to people, we give them a psychological breathing room. Empathic listening gets inside another person's frame of reference. You look at through it, you see the world the way they see the world. You understand their paradigm, you understand how they feel. Empathic listening involves much more than words. It is estimated that only 10% of our communication is represented by the words we say. Another 30% is represented by our sounds, and remaining 60% by our body language. Empathic listening can be achieved by 4 methods. Their effectiveness increases with the numbers. 1. Repeating their words. 2. Rephrasing their words rather than repeating. 3. Reflecting their feelings. 4. Rephrasing their words and reflecting their feelings. 6. Synergize. What is synergy? It is basically this. The whole is more than the sum of its parts. All previously mentioned habits prepare us to create the miracle of synergy. The challenge is to apply the principle of creative cooperation into our social interactions. Valuing all kinds of differences between people is the essence of synergy. And the last habit. 7. Sharpen the soul. Your most important task is preserving and enhancing the greatest asset you own, yourself. We must devote the time to renew ourselves physically, spiritually, mentally, and socially. For physical renewal, we can exercise, have healthy diets, and enough rest. For spiritual renewal, we can read, listen to music, spend time in nature, meditate, pray. For mental renewal, we can read, write, visualize, and plan. By reading books, we can enter the biggest brains ever lived. For social, emotional renewal, we can learn to understand others, volunteer, and serve others in need.